I mean, they couldn't be more decisive for both of these two teams in terms of their season, Troy.
Yeah, I think it's just that mental game that Grella alluded to with Reinders earlier on. Even for Arsenal, it's so big because they can finally get over that hump. We've won something. For Man City, it's we chip away at that confidence that Arsenal have built over the years. And we was talking about it in the green room. We've seen Liverpool last year. I remember talking to Virgil van Dijk. At that moment, they were on for the quadruple. It didn't happen. Inter didn't happen. It's very difficult to win more than one trophy in one season. So Arsenal know that that's stacked against them in terms of the odds. But this is a huge moment, I think, in the season for this Arsenal team to give them the confidence to get over the hill. We spoke to Declan Rice. He's talking about wanting it. He also mentioned in a previous interview that Raheem Sterling spoke about how important the Carabao Cup is to win, as it's the first one. William Saliba talking about his pockets are empty. So Arsenal want it, feel it, need it. I just wonder if they were to lose it, what does it do? It's really interesting.
Would you all agree that it'll have more of a negative effect on Arsenal if they lose it than if Manchester City were to lose it?
I would say so. I think so, yeah, because they made a statement by playing such a strong side. Yes, they're playing against Chelsea, but with everything else that they're in and the squad and everything, I feel that this is a competition that they want to win and they're in it to win it. I don't think that they're here just to participate.
I think it's 50-50, you know. I do think it's 50-50. The last time Man City were in a final FA Cup, they lost to Crystal Palace. You then get back to that, you lose again, then it starts to become a Man City loss. You know, like narratively, it's completely different, isn't it?
But then the thing is, I know, and it's no disrespect to Crystal Palace, but it's Man City facing Arsenal now. There's a different adrenaline that pumps, and you know as a player, when it's a certain club that you have a rival against or big club, there's a different energy around the players. When you play in Crystal Palace, it's no disrespect. It's probably arrogance. They were arrogant in their approach to that one, and, you know, Crystal Palace won. But if it's Arsenal chasing them in the Premier League as well, there's a different motivation behind it.
What could be a head-scratcher is who starts in goal, Grella, because obviously we've seen James Trafford start for Manchester City and Kepa starting in goal for Arsenal. Who do you go with now you're in the final? Do you give credit to the person that got you here and give them those important minutes, or do you think loyalty in that aspect is out the window and we need our best people in?
It's a very personal decision. It comes down to the manager for sure on the day. I think that if the guy, for me personally, if I was there, if the guy brought me there, he was good enough to play for Manchester City, he was good enough to be at some point in the season your number one guy, I stay with the guy that brought me there in the cup competitions. Also, you have so many competitions. What are you saying to the squad that in the biggest moment, the guy who got you there, you just pull him out and say, oh, no, well, we're going to go with this guy? I mean,
trying to win.
It's called football.
We're trying to win.
Yeah.
It's called life. This stuff happens.
I don't know if I would do that. No, trust me, I've been on the wrong end of those decisions my whole life.
Exactly.
I understand that it sucks, but I personally would stay with the guy.
You would? What would you do, Troy?
I think if both teams were playing so if Arsenal were playing Newcastle, I think they would have stayed with Kepa. I think if City were playing Chelsea, they would have stayed with Trafford. But I think because this is something that's not going away, not only this season, probably for the next 5 years, I think it's so important that they'll play both games. I was talking to Grella about it. I remember when we played in the FA Cup final, we had Aurelio Gomez get us all the way to the semi-final. The week leading up to it, the discussion around it all was the manager wanted to keep Gomez because he'd been so, you know, monumental getting us there. The ownership were like, no, go with the best, go with Ben Foster. And it creates an issue, so they will have to nip it in the bud very, very quickly. But for me, go with your best team. I think both teams will go with their strongest team trying to win.
I was just about to say on that point, how early do you find out? So say they are going to change and go with their number one goalkeepers. How early do those conversations happen? Or
The start of that week.
So you know straight away that
just kill it. Yeah, just kill it dead and just say, you know, if you are going back, especially for the second goalkeeper, tell him as early as possible.
Right.
Let it get it out of your system and go, OK, this is what we're doing moving forward.
Which would you do, Nige? You would go with the number one keeper?
For me, my personality, I would stick to keepers that have been playing in it for now. But for the reality of what this game means, I can see them going to the regular starters. I can see both teams going to their number ones.
Let's hear his thoughts after the match.
Yeah, the first chance of a title this season. When you think of a group as in formation, what could it mean to win a title?
Will be good for all of them. So you have to live this experience. You have to live this experience for many of these players. You know, for the first time we won first title in our era here was in the Carabao Cup 9 years ago, and was okay. Break something. You know, when you win something, helps to win more. It's a pleasure to play against Arsenal, the best team right now in Europe, maybe in the world, and for many things, the stats, the consistency, the many details that they control, and as much we play against them, we will make us better team. And hopefully in March we can arrive with the players fit, and hopefully we can convince the Carabao Cup that Mark can play this competition, the final, because it's difficult to understand that the club making a big investment to play one player, to take one player, it belongs to us, and I don't understand why cannot play the final. Honestly, so hopefully we make a letter, and hopefully the Carabao Cup or whatever, they can understand that once you buy a player for a lot of money and he's not able to play for a rule that I don't understand why, hopefully they can change it, they can play.
Final one on Arsenal, because some people will argue that this title would mean more to Arsenal because they've been waiting for so long, because there's so much expectation. What would you say about that?
No, I understand. So don't make me say something that make me feel, something that I understand they want to win. I saw the celebration yesterday against Chelsea. So many years that they don't do it. It's normal that happen, but we want to do it too. And hopefully, just I pray that have the players fit and have the players in our disposal to try to compete against them. So, but for many years, being again another final is really, really good.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Natalie.
Defensive worries, doesn't it? Talking about Mark Gahey there, who can't play because he wasn't a City player when they played the first leg of the semi-final, so he'll be unavailable for the final, which you can understand Pep's frustration. Obviously, rules aside that he can't play, because he'd be a massive addition to this back line.
And then a letter. Can you imagine if, for whatever reason, they allow it to happen? Can you imagine all the Arsenal fans uproar because of that change?
They won't allow it to happen.
I know, it'd be fun just to watch Cos though, wouldn't it?
I'll get my smallest violin out for Pep Guardiola. I'm sorry. Yeah. Get on with it.
The rules are the rules. Are you going to send a letter? I mean, I want to go home tonight. The speed limit's 60 miles an hour. I got to go 60 miles an hour. Not that I go 100 and I send a letter and the rules are different for me. The rules are like that from the beginning of the tournament. So I don't know. That was interesting.
It definitely shows how worried he is defensively about his team. To single out Mark Gahey as the player, the reason why you signed him, and then obviously he can't play, and you can see the frustration. But on the other hand, he does say he's got players coming back, so he knows he's got other players coming back. I don't understand.
I found it quite interesting, though, when he talks about Arsenal, he doesn't talk about the styles of play. He doesn't talk about their set piece. He's like, they're very consistent. So I think he thinks, as we alluded to earlier, both teams fit, both playing at the best, we beat them. That's what I took from that, because he's not saying, oh, they're great defensively, oh, they're great attacking-wise, oh, we need to worry about this. He was like, they're probably the best now statistically, but they are consistent. That's what he alluded to. So I think he has a little feeling in the back of his mind. If I can get everybody fit and available, we can take them in a one-off game.
I don't think he's ever lost belief. I think he's very confident. I think he's been very confident. I still think now, to this day, in his dressing room, that he believes that he could probably win, that they can catch Arsenal and win the Premier League. I don't think that's ever gone away.
Who would you rather play for, Grell, in the final, if you had to pick one, Arsenal or City?
Well, Arsenal, simply because I think they're going to win the game. I think they're more organized. And I think if I was playing as an individual player at Arsenal, I think my role would be much easier. Be very clear what I had to do on the day. Be a lot of pressure taken off me by knowing exactly where I need to be in what phase of play. Versus Man City, can you imagine being a center back in that final? You're just searching for guys. You've got numbers running for the midfield. Your midfield's gone. Rodri is somewhere else, and you're just chasing guys all over the place.
But you're not a centre-back. You're a striker. You're going to be scoring goals. You wouldn't be playing centre-back for Man City, would you? You're a striker.
Who would you rather play for in the final?
I love the underdog story in it. So for me, I think Manchester City are seen as the underdog.
It's crazy, isn't it, calling City an underdog?
They really are seen as the underdog in this. Arsenal, the better side. So I think I love that underdog story.
That was last night. Tonight, Manchester City getting it done against Newcastle, setting up the blockbuster final. March the 22nd, Arsenal and Manchester City. That match will be live on Paramount+. A chance for Arsenal to begin a quadruple, or for Manchester City to get a trophy. Will be a first trophy for quite a few of their playing squad. But looking ahead, an early preview of that final, I think you kind of look at, really the question is sort of who would need this more in the context of their season. When you look at Arsenal, who I think if they lost a final, could potentially sort of send them into a bad way mentally. And for Manchester City, who might not have enough to mount a challenge in the Premier League or even in the Champions League, this could be a real chance at silverware, the domestic cups.
Yeah, and it could be a big opportunity for Pep Guardiola to have silverware potentially if he does decide to leave the football club, right? It could be his last opportunity. I mean, Arsenal are my favourite going into this game, full stop. I mean, the way they're playing football right now, I fancy them to win almost every single game they go into. Defensively, incredibly solid. But every single time these two teams go up against each other, it is not just a battle on the pitch, it's a battle off the pitch. It's a battle of the media building up to the game. Arteta, obviously being a former, assistant to Pep Guardiola and learning from Pep Guardiola on the sidelines at Manchester City, now taking over Arsenal and trying to figure out a way how to eventually beat Pep Guardiola. Now he can't lose to Pep Guardiola. I mean, there's so many stories going on off the field as much as there is on the field. But this is a new Manchester City side, right? This is not the same Manchester City that we've watched win trophy after trophy after trophy for a decade. This is a completely different squad that Pep Guardiola's put together. I think the more pressure is on Mikel Arteta to win a trophy, full stop this season. But probably the EFL Cup's not the one he wants most, right? Premier League, I would say, is that. Then I think Champions League followed very closely second. I can only imagine Pep Guardiola's got his eye on that Champions League trophy as well. The Premier League might be too far gone, I think, for City at this point. But this is setting up to be a perfect final. They're both there. They're both serial winners, right? As players and as coaches, they both want to win. There's that winning mentality built within them. They're just different. So I'm excited to see which one wins out. But I think team selection comes up very interestingly so when it comes to an EFL Cup final. Because there's an opportunity to rotate. You've played different goalkeepers. You've made different choices leading up to a final. But now you've got there. Whitty, what do? Do you go with your strongest team?
It's still a final at Wembley Stadium, and you have to give your most to it. Let's dig a little bit more into that matchup between Arteta and Guardiola, because I do think it's kind of fascinating given the history that Arteta was his assistant, goes on to become Arsenal manager. And I think we thought that it would sort of be Guardiola style replicated in North London, but there has been a divergence where Arsenal style is a little bit more physical, predicated on the set pieces and the long throws and everything that he has changed about that squad. How do you see their styles clashing now in a game like this, in a final like this?
A bit different. Obviously, Manchester City's all-out explosive attacking play, and they do have a lot more goals coming for their offensive players. Arsenal, very much so solid defensively, very, very dangerous on set pieces. So there's different factors to the game that could come into play, especially when it comes to a cup final that can decide it. Because normally cup finals are quite tight affairs. This one, I think, will have maybe a bit of explosivity in it more than anything else. I think Arsenal are starting to really get their game going when it comes to scoring goals on the run of play. They're starting to get players back healthy again. Kai Havertz has come back. He started scoring goals again. Got a couple in the last 3 games, which is nice to see. I think Gyökeres is starting to score goals, even though I don't think necessarily it's important for him to score goals. He invites every other player around them to step up and be dangerous. And then at City, you've got a battle right now because Erling Haaland can't even get into the starting 11 because Marmoush is banging in too many goals. So, yeah, City have got that life of luxury for offensive players. I mean, they could play 2 different 11s for offensive-minded players and be competitive against this Arsenal side. But somehow, some way, I just got a feeling that the way that Arteta's handling it tactically, defensively solid, not allowing himself to be too vulnerable, making sure you're very dangerous on set pieces, and if you do, obviously create a goal from the run of play, fair play. But I think Arteta's got the style now to make it sometimes an ugly victory. Doesn't have to be pretty anymore. Just find a way to get the job done, similar to what they did do with this starting 11 that went out yesterday. I think it was a big victory against Chelsea, regardless of the fact that they got to a final. They won that game, and they did it not necessarily in the most pleasing on the eye style of way.
And it's really remarkable you can call this a rotational team, considering the amount of talent that they have in it. But we were talking about this off air. There is a possibility, depending on how the draw of the UEFA Champions League goes, drawn into similar paths, they could potentially face off in a quarter-final of the Champions League. And there's a possibility that they face each other in the Carabao Cup final, 2 legs of the UEFA Champions League, and then that big 6-pointer in the Premier League. If that is the case, or even if it's not the case, and there is just that big Premier League clash to come after this Carabao Cup final, how would you say this final charts the course for the rest of the season? Meaning the outcome, the performance that comes out of that game sets the sort of predicate for the remainder of the campaign.
Honestly, I don't want to take anything away from the EFL Cup trophy, but I think going into the competition, you think it's the least important trophy. But actually, when you make it to a final, it becomes the most important trophy because it's the next game. I think both of these teams take this incredibly seriously, Chris. Now, you pointed out there, they could face each other 4 times in the space of a 3-week period, which for the viewer is not always the most beautiful thing. But if you think that both teams and the amount of quality that's on the roster sitting on the bench, you can just rotate. You'll see 4 different starting 11s. I mean, it's going to be completely different games.
And you'll see incredible animosity by the end of it.
I'm just like, who's we watching here? Like, this is like the Super League is essentially Manchester City versus Arsenal now because it's 4 different teams going up against each other. It's the beauty of football. It's the way football's going now. Now you don't just buy a starting 11, right? Now you buy 22 players that can compete for a spot in your starting 11. This is going to be a Wild West. It's going to be a mental shootout, I think. I think it's going to be a brilliant game. Cup final with a trophy at stake. Best teams will go out there to perform. I still favour Arsenal to get the job done because they've got that defensive solidity that Manchester City don't have.
And that Carabao Cup final to come in.
The big things to remember here, and Natalie mentioned it to Reinders as well, is that there are a lot of players in this City squad who are waiting to win their first medal for the club because it has changed so much over the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I think when you're a Man City player, you come here for silverware, don't you? Being around or in amongst the lads who have won so much, it can only be good for you. But to win that first one, it's special. When we won the FA Cup 2011, and when you're playing with the likes of David Silva and Aguero and all that, you know they're going to win stuff. For players who might get moved on, it's important to get that first trophy.
Because we talk about it as a platform, and we talked about it with Arsenal as a platform last night. But if you are newish to City and haven't won a medal, it's equally a valid subject to say it's a platform for those players.
Yeah, I think that's what Reinders said as well. Joining one of the biggest clubs in the world to win trophies. And again, it's going to be his first time in a Wembley final, and they'll want to go there. Semenya's another example. It's a shame as Pep says Mark Gahey's not going to be able to allowed to play because of the rules. But I would sort of go against that in the sense I don't think Semenya should have been allowed to play either. I think once you play in the competition, you shouldn't be allowed to play. And then if they say he's allowed to play, then Gahey should
be cup tied.
He should be cup tied like it's always been. But then it's
the
just
rules
one.
changed, though, didn't they?
Yeah, but it's one rule for Semenya and one rule for Gahey. So it should be.
Well, no, there is no.
No, but what I'm saying is he should be allowed to play then, in my opinion. If he's played already for Palace, Gahey, the same as Semenya's already played for Bournemouth, he should be allowed to play in the final.
The rule, which is 6.4 of whatever guidebook it is, it says that the cut-off point is after the first leg of the semi-final. Okay. So if you sign for a club before the first leg, and this is the first year this has happened.
This is the first year.
The first year that you're not cup tied, yeah. So if you sign for a club before the first leg of the semi-final, you can play for that club if it's your second club of the season. If you sign after the first leg of the semi-final...
I don't agree. I don't agree with the whole thing.
No, but that's the rule. If you sign after the first leg of the semi-final, you are ineligible for the second leg and also the final. That's the rule.
Mark Gahey signs a week after Semenya and he can't play. So next month, Semenya can get his hands on that trophy. Mark Gahey, who maybe joins a week later, can't. It's I don't know how to use the word farcical, but I've used it.
Okay.
Makes...
I mean, rules are rules, aren't they? Simple as that.
Do you agree with the rules?
Can you understand them? Can you understand them saying
I understand
that they may see if they can get it changed?
I understand Pep's frustration because you just spent all that money on a player. You want him to play, of course. But at the start of the season, the rules are rules. So
forget my dinosaur views on it. But what I'm saying is, if you're looking at the defensive side of things, we talk about Newcastle creating a lot of chances tonight. Mark Gahey in the final would make them much more solid at the back against a brilliant Arsenal team as well. Yeah, but make a big difference, wouldn't it?
But that's irrelevant to the point, though, isn't it?
I'm still sticking to my point. I'm not changing my point.
I would love Gahey to play. I think he's been brilliant since he signed for Man City, but it's irrelevant because they're the rules.
We're still obviously 6 weeks away from this final, and as we always say, an awful lot can change in 6 weeks. Historically, though, Pep Guardiola's Manchester City have got the advantage over Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. Certainly, if you go from 2020 through to mid-2023. However, after that, the pendulum has swung ever so slightly.
I think it's going to be difficult, isn't it? I think you can't really pick a winner because Arsenal are better defensively, but Man City always try to win a game. It could be down to a set piece. Cup finals are normally only separated by maybe 1 or 2 goals. but I can't pick a winner. And it's same with the league as well. I think Man City obviously go to Liverpool at the weekend. That'll be very difficult. But in terms of one game, it could go any way.
It's interesting to see because the very last fixture on that graphic was a 1-1, wasn't it? The first time we ever seen Man City sort of in the second half try and go defensively and try and see Arsenal. So maybe the tide is turning a little bit, but until I suppose Arteta gets his hands on the trophy ahead of his master, in a sense, Pep Guardiola used to be his manager, of course, then it's still very much City's trophy, I think they take. Why are you smiling at?
No.
1 on aggregate, 3-1 on the night after winning 2-0 at St. James's Park. And so it sets up March the 22nd, Arsenal and Manchester City in the final of the Carabao Cup. They also play in the Premier League on April the 18th. It'll be a busy period for those teams and potentially title-deciding portions of the season. Let's hear from the City manager, Pep Guardiola, after the game.
Chance of a title this season. When you think of a group as in formation, what could it mean to win a title?
Will be good for all of them. So you have to live this experience. You have to live this experience for many of these players. You know, for the first time we won first title in our era here was in the Carabao Cup 9 years ago, and was okay. Break something. You know, when you win something, helps to win more. It's a pleasure to play against Arsenal, the best team right now in Europe, maybe in the world, and for many things, the stats, the consistency, the many details that they control, and as much we play against them, we will make us better team. And hopefully in March we can arrive with the players fit, and hopefully we can convince the Carabao Cup that Mark can play this competition, the final, because it's difficult to understand that the club making a big investment to play one player, to take one player, it belongs to us, and I don't understand why cannot play the final, honestly. So hopefully we make a letter, and hopefully the Carabao Cup or whatever, they can understand that once you buy a player for a lot of money and he's not able to play for a rule that I don't understand why, hopefully they can change it, they can play.
Final one on Arsenal, because some people will argue that this title would mean more to Arsenal because they've been waiting for so long, because there's so much expectation. What would you say about that?
I understand, so don't make me say something that make me feel, something that I understand they want to win. I saw the celebration yesterday against Chelsea. So many years that they don't do it. It's normal that happen, but we want to do it too. And hopefully, just I pray that have the players fit and have the players in our disposal to try to compete against them. So, but for many years, being again in another final is really, really good.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Natalie.
And that's Pep Guardiola after the Cup semi-final, now into the Carabao Cup final to face Arsenal. But Ian, one of the things he kind of mentioned there was this sort of idea of a new group of players needing to learn how to win. And that when he began at City, it was a win in the Carabao Cup in 2017 that allows him to sort of kick on and build that sort of winning mentality. Do you feel like that is something that might be missing from this group, considering the amount of changeover there has been in the playing squad?
Yeah, 7 of the starting 11 never won a major trophy with Manchester City, and I think that's something they're going to have to try and do very quickly so that they can gain some sort of experience for winning that trophy and what it feels like to win a trophy for Manchester City. There is expectation at that football club. It is a winning football club. All they've ever known since the investment coming in from the UAE has been winning, and they had to be patient to make that happen. But Pep Guardiola, all he knows there is winning and being competitive in trophies. So yeah, those players who started, the 7 who have never won that major trophy, are going to have to get used to it very quickly, and performance matters. But Pep Guardiola on the sideline has done an excellent job. If you look at the bench, it's absolutely ridiculous the quality that they've got on the bench to be able to bring off. I know he brings some youngsters off the bench in this game, and he could afford to do that because they were 5-0 up at a period of time. But the 11 that went out there was fantastic. I love Semenyo. I think he's one of the best signings that City could have ever made. I think Marmoush is a difference maker, obviously, and it's great to see him finally getting his opportunity up top in that position where he played at Eintracht Frankfurt, where we know he can score goals. Is he an Erling Haaland type goal-scoring number player? No. But he can be that player that can step up when Haaland needs maybe a bit of a break. Now the question is, if Marmoush really hits form in the form that he's been in, this was another spectacular performance from him. A couple of goals. I know you're not giving him the first one too easily, but a couple of goals in this game. 9 contacts of the ball inside the opposition box, took 5 shots. He was active, Whitty, and I want to see that from him. But he's the hot hand right now. So when Haaland's not in form, I mean, I guess you've got a bit of a debate now. Does Pep Guardiola change it out? Does he go to Erling Haaland, the one he knows he can rely on, or does he go with the hot hand, which is Marmoush right now?
And Haaland had a decent chance as well in the second half. You look at the figures here that you mentioned for Omar Marmoush. He's got 5 goals in his career against Newcastle. He loves to see the black and white stripes of the tune. But I guess I'll ask you that question then. So, considering the form that Marmoush is in, considering that Erling Haaland is not in form, it kind of was thought to be one of the positions in the City team that was not up for question.
Right.
Is the position now up for question where Marmoush could potentially start in big matches? And I guess perhaps if that isn't the question, could they play together? Could Marmoush and Haaland coexist in your mind? How do you see the striker position for City at the moment?
Well, I think first and foremost, what we've probably done is we've ended the debate that how good will Manchester City be without Erling Haaland? What happens if Erling Haaland gets injured, right? We've kind of ended that debate now. They've got players there that can step up in that role, and Marmoush is doing exactly that. Their numbers will never be Erling Haaland numbers. He's not a goal-a-game ratio player. He's just not. Haaland is a freak of nature, being able to do what he has done for such a long period of time. But at some point, Haaland was going to run out of gas. I still think he's got a lot to offer between now and the end of the season, Erling Haaland. Is he slowed down a little bit? Is it an opportunity for him to get a rest? I think so. Give him a break. Give him some time. He's got a World Cup coming up as well. Give him some time. Let him be ready for the major competitions, and most likely he'll be ready for the EFL Cup final. But I think there is a possibility that we could see maybe Marmoush on the pitch at the same time as Erling Haaland. That is a possibility. But where do you fit them all, Whitty? You know, what I love right now when I watch Manchester City, and you know, as a Manchester United fan, it's very hard for me to watch Manchester City at all, but they're entertaining. So it's hard not to switch them on when they play. Doku on one side, Semenyo on the other side, Haaland through the middle. That's my preferred 3.
Ryan Cherki.
Cherki dropping, Foden in and out of the team. Like, you've got so many weapons now. Where does Marmoush fit into that? You know, I would prefer to see Semenyo and Doku on the wings. Get after it. Pace, down the line, cross in, go yourself. They can play left and right foot. They're dangerous from the wide areas. And a little bit sharper than what we're seeing from Foden out wide. And Marmoush can also play out wide as well. But he's not that type of a player. I think he needs to play in that number 9 role, or at least playing off Erling Haaland would work for him. But I think there's specific opponents you could probably do that against. And I think Pep's got to have to be incredibly careful how he does that. But I don't think you go away from Haaland too quickly. Because if you start to upset Erling Haaland, the future of Manchester City's trophy cabinet is at stake.
Erling Haaland is certainly an incredibly important part of the team, just not in form at the moment. Now, as for the opposition, Newcastle out of the Carabao Cup in the bottom half of the table in the Premier League. Let's hear from Eddie Howe, who spoke with our very own Anita Jones.
The title defence ends today. It was always going to be a tough challenge with that 2-goal deficit, but it felt like your team went out there really trying to get back into the game. What was the approach?
Yeah, the approach was to be brave, aggressive, try to attack, but obviously with balance. The first half was tough for us the minute they scored, really. I think that shook us to a degree. I don't think we responded very well to the goal, although, saying that, I felt we had chances all through the game. So Joe Willock goes through near enough on a one-on-one straight after they score. So I think, again, it could have been very different. We're disappointed with how we defended in that first half. We were loose. The goals weren't anywhere near good enough from our perspective, and we got punished.
What did you say to your team at half-time when you were 3-0 down?
A mixture of things, really. I think it was more about us competing better with duels. I thought we were really poor. Ground duels, aerial duels. You can't do that here. I think against this team, if you're not clinical in those moments, they're going to punish you, because they've got players, if they get the other side of you, you don't really get a second chance. So we were disappointed with our performance through midfield. Our backline was getting exposed. I don't think we defended those goal-scoring opportunities they had at all well enough. So, yeah, very disappointed. Regrouped, made some changes, and we were much better in the second half.
And they were better in a second half, after which they were 5-0 down. But I guess the question would be, when you look at their season so far, this was a team that was meant to kick on. Even after losing Alexander Isak, they spend on Elanga, they spend on Voltemata. But right now, they're a side that are 11th in the Premier League. They're now out of the Carabao Cup. They're through the Champions League knockout round, but the only team that's in the knockout round as opposed to being in the top 8. Would you consider Eddie Howe to be under pressure right now?
Yes, I do think he's under pressure right now. I mean, he's got 1 victory in the last 8 games across all competitions. Not good enough. Certainly not good enough for the investment that's been put in by the Saudi group. I think there is an expectation there at the football club to be competitive for top 4 in the Premier League. They currently sit 11th in the Premier League right now. I think there's pressure to bring a trophy in through the door. Wonderful what they did do last year in this competition, but now they're out of it. Where's that success going to come from? They're in the FA Cup. The FA Cup game is away to Aston Villa. They've won 3 of the last 17 games across all competitions away from home. So I think Eddie Howe is under immense pressure. Where's that victory going to come from? In the Champions League, you talk about success there. You know, they narrowly missed out. It was a difficult place to go play at Paris and trying to get a result there to stay in the top 8, and both teams ended up out of the top 8. However, for him now, he's got to go play Carabao, and if you get passed through them and the way it works out, it's Chelsea or Barcelona. So if you get knocked out of the Champions League, you lose to Aston Villa in the FA Cup, you're out of now the Carabao Cup, you finish mid-table in the Premier League, Eddie Howe's gone. Full stop. I know there's a lot of love for Eddie Howe and he's an English manager, but at Newcastle under that ownership, I can only imagine that the pressure is there, that you've got to be in a European place. It must be close to a Champions League spot. And I know it's tight, but I still think they're miles away from it. Their away form sucks. It's awful. So I do think that Eddie Howe is running very close to that red line. He could be very much out of a job before we even get to the end of the season. I could very much see that.
And you look at the current state that they're in, even in the game, 5-0 down and giving away goals kind of for fun in that first half. And this is what it looks like. Doesn't get much easier coming up. Home with Brentford at the weekend, which has proven to be a difficult game. Away at Spurs, away at Villa, as you mentioned, the FA Cup, and then that long old trip to Azerbaijan before visiting Manchester City. This doesn't get any easier.
No, it doesn't get any easier. Their record against Manchester City is awful as well. They've lost the last 12 away games against Manchester City in all competitions. It's the worst opponent. They hate playing against Manchester
By an aggregate score, something like 40-4, I read online today.
It's ridiculous. And even right now, if you look at the Premier League record, it's 33 scored, 33 against. It's just not the same. Newcastle. I do feel a bit sorry for Eddie Howe, right? What happened?
You got to understand